this one. did you end up in someone else's heaven?
Nobody gives a fuck about Zatanna Zatara. Well, maybe that's unfair. People give a fuck about her occasionally, but the character was created in 1964 and didn't have her own comic until 1994, and none of her comics have run for more than 1 year. Her origin and powers have been rebooted no less than 4 times, and that's not counting all of the times DC has leaned on Elseworld canons to explain who this character actually is. Zatanna is one of the endless slew of secondary characters introduced throughout the 60s and 70s. A deluge of hyper-powerful people now introduced into a world that had conglomerated all of the previous DC comic properties, along with the Charlton comic properties. Zatanna exists as a super powerful person created to be in a world of super powerful people. And her original thing was that her dad was famous and she said things backwards. Who this character is, how their godlike powers have affected their life. From version to version of Zatanna, these things completely change. There is no static version of Zatanna Zatara. Not even the top hat stays around for every version. Sometimes she can bend reality. Sometimes she has pagan powers. Sometimes her powers are like Lovecraftian. Sometimes they're from hell. But what matters is they're never from one place for more than 15 years. Zatanna has never been in a movie. When I was conceiving the Kryptonian epic, a giant part of the conceptual thinking going into the story was about how to make it so each of these characters interwove with each other in a way that made sense and had a payoff at the end. These aren't characters who are designed to be brands or properties. They exist only in this story. Lovecraftian Aquaman, Narcissist Flash, Brute Wonder Woman, those are my people, and their stories all tie back into Clark's. After I figured out what I wanted to do with Blue Beetle, I began to think about Zatanna. The choice was really Zatanna, Martian Manhunter, or Cyborg. And of those characters, I feel Zatanna has been explored the least, has been given the least hype. She's magical, she can bend reality, and she's a B- member of the Justice League? Like, what's going on here? Surely I could find a more interesting use for this character in my world. Surely there had to be an exception to the rule in the epic, that everything tied back to Krypton. Z, the Magical Girl, is a series of 7 stories designed to illustrate moments from Zatanna's life that turned her into the person she was. When I wrote American Alien, the plan was to not write a superhero comic, but a portrait of Clark Kent and the subtler experiences of how he ended up as the guy who would become Superman. Zatanna's story goes a little differently, and the lessons she learns are a little bit harder. So, Z, the Magical Girl. Okay, so Z, the Magical Girl, a series of 7 short stories, chronologically arranged pivotal moments in the life of Zatanna Zatara. Born as the world's only magical person, Z's untrained godlike powers are juxtaposed against a life in which power, in various ways, is stolen from her. Within the Kryptonian epic, Zatanna is one of only 2 characters whose supernatural powers do not tie back to the planet Krypton. In many ways, Z is a representative of Earth, and despite her nascent powers, most of her stories zero in on the various aspects of hopeless nihilism and painful cynicism that define life for an animal on this planet. Each of Z's stories is named for a different goddess, and this is the first one. It's called Morrigan. Deep in the forests of Lithuania, in a small village, an 8-year-old Zatanna Zatara finds herself under scrutiny after a local girl, Clara, vanishes. There's been talk about Zatanna since she was born. In fact, there's talk about if she was born. People say her parents found her in a cave or in the woods, that she fell from the stars or came up from the bottom of a lake. There's a lot of stories about Zatanna Zatara, and weird incidents follow her wherever she goes. Now, Zatanna herself is an 8-year-old Lithuanian girl. She loves singing and dancing. She owns exactly one pair of shoes. She loves to watch TV and loves the pop stars and the singing on the radio. But that doesn't really match up with the things that happen around her. Those more angle towards strange and disturbing. Items change color. That's one of the more benign things. An apple will turn blue, or a person's finger will turn black, only to change back a mere hour later. But then there's some more insidious things. A family cat one night was transformed into wood and has never transformed back. Crops have died off outside the village or grown weird new mutations that no one's ever seen. The weather in and around the village changes almost at random whenever Zatanna is asleep. People have tied this back to her forever, and Clara for the village is a breaking point. You see, Clara was the only one who even liked Zatanna. Even though Z's family lives way deep in the woods, Clara's like the neighbor. She's the kid who lives closest, and she's convinced that Z is a witch. She tells Z every day that she should try to use her powers to do good things for the village, that she could make herself beautiful or create money out of nothing, create diamonds and gold and make them all millionaires, make them all billionaires, powerful and happy forever. Z is not so sure. In fact, she's gotten increasingly withdrawn as the incidents have gotten worse. But Clara is a total free spirit, and she repeatedly encourages Z to come outside of her comfort zone. One day, they're out in the woods. They find an old, bombed-out theater from back in the day. Lithuanian vaudeville, burlesque, comedians, magic acts. In fact, the magic act is the only thing that's left. There's this mural on a shattered wall of brick, half burnt from a bomb dropped 40 years prior, of a beautiful, voluptuous woman with big hips and fishnets and a little onesie and a top hat doing a magic trick. For Zatanna's entire life, she's been able to walk past and see this. And sometimes she can swear it talks to her, but Clara can't hear that. In fact, it's during one of these moments where she hears a strange whispering from the mural of the woman that Clara slices open her hand on a rusty piece of rebar. She's terrified that she'll get in trouble, so she begs Zatanna, please, please fix it. Zatanna tries, and for the first time, it works. The wound is healed. There's this beautiful image of the two girls holding hands, silhouetted against this mural of the magic woman, and as she heals Clara's hand, all of the flowers on all of the vines bloom simultaneously behind them. Clara has a complete fantasy. She is manic with glee at the possibility that Zatanna is finally going to engage with her powers, talking about how they'll fly around the world on a broomstick. Zatanna says, well, one day maybe I'll learn to fly. And when I fly, I'll float away and I'll take you with me and we'll get out of this place. But less than 24 hours later, Clara's family reports her missing, and Z is essentially chased into hiding. She was the last person seen with Clara. Zatanna is confronted by a group of adults while she's alone in the town, and in her panic, she accidentally creates a stone replica of Clara that's like 20 feet tall. The people in the town are like, oh my God, you turned her into fucking stone! Zatanna's like, no, that's just a statue, I don't know why that happened, but it doesn't matter. She flees into the woods, and it's deep in the woods that she hears Clara's voice. Clara fell down a fucking well. She fucking broke her foot. She's been down there overnight. She says, Zatanna, bring me up, pull me up. Z says, no, I don't know how to do that. I'll go get help. Clara says, don't be a fool. Use it, please, please, I'm hurt. I've been here all night. Don't make me wait any longer. Please, Z, I know you can do it. Z believes in herself, and she tries it, and the well instantly fills with dirt, burying Clara alive. Boom. Z is shocked, horrified. She frantically digs through the soil with her bare hands until she excavates the crushed corpse of her friend. In the middle of the night, Z carries the dead girl through the woods, through the rain, to her home, and promises in a whisper to bring her back. She tries to do so. She tries hard. We see her trying again and again, sobs echoing into the woods. The next morning, the parents of Clara have come over. They're having breakfast with Zatanna's parents. They go up the stairs to Z's room to call her down for breakfast, and they discover, to their horror, 20 copies of Clara's corpse with various horrifying mutations. Some have their organs on the outside, some show crushed limbs, some don't have skin. It's awful. Z begs for them to let her try again. One more time. Just give me one more chance. She knew I could do it. I can do it. I did it before. But Clara's father melts down into a rage and smashes Z in the head with a lamp. He takes one of the 20 corpses and goes downstairs, and a screaming match between the parents ensues. And then, out of nowhere, the whole house turns to glass. The people turn to glass too, but as they move, they shatter. We can see nervous system and veins and organs coming apart into shards of glass. Z's adoptive mother screams a high-pitched, tinny scream as she shatters, collapsing into bloody shards. And the dead girl's mother comes apart into a pile, the screaming mouth being the last thing to fall into ruin. And Z says she'll leave, she goes, she cries. Her father, the only person not transformed into glass, stumbles after her. Z says, I'll leave, don't worry, you won't have to worry about me anymore, and begins to float up into the sky. Her father was always a quiet man. He never told Z the truth about where she came from. And as he holds onto her leg, as they rise higher and higher and higher, the look in his eyes is love. And it's the last time Z will see that look for more than 15 years, as her father's grip slips and he plummets backwards hundreds of feet to his death, as Z floats off, screaming and out of control, until she's just a dot in the distance. Story number 2, Artemis. Zatanna is now living in an orphanage in North Africa. It's at least 2 or 3 years later. She doesn't talk. And even if she did, she doesn't share a common language with almost anyone there. The other children in the orphanage are mostly refugees or escapees, many of them former child soldiers from a civil war ravaging the area nearby. The violence is being led by a warlord called Amaj. And even though Z can't speak their language, her magical nature allows her to understand the other children implicitly. Every night, she listens to them talk about their slain families and about how they wish someone would kill Amaj and take back their homes. A lot of these kids come in malnourished or even near death. So Z's contribution has been that she just never eats. It appears she doesn't have to. She's become anorexically skinny, pallid. Her skin's gone wrong, but she doesn't die. Yet there's an issue. At night, there have been strange occurrences. Incidents not totally unfamiliar to Z. One night, one of the children randomly aged into an old man. Another time, it rained blood indoors. The village people are saying the area is cursed, haunted by the witch Al-Kahina. The staff is growing increasingly superstitious and afraid. Zatanna, knowing that it's her doing while she sleeps, stops sleeping. She spends every night awake for months, poking herself with a needle when she starts to slide into sleep, and she begins to figure out that she doesn't need sleep either. Her eyes grow sunken. Her expression grows vacant. She becomes a hollow shell, emaciated and sallow. Basically, the only person who's noticed this and is concerned is a singular woman, a doctor from Doctors Without Borders. The woman is interested in Z, but she's also the only one that clocks the fact that Z is likely the reason all these strange occurrences are happening, noting that Z's strange behavior, her paranoia, not to mention the fact that things changed the moment Z arrived. One night, sounds of violence and chaos erupt nearby, waking the children from their sleep. The doctor confides in Z she's made a deal with a mysterious stranger to kill the warlord Amaj and end the violence. All the stranger has asked for in return is to meet the person responsible for the strange phenomena plaguing the orphanage, rumors of which have spread far and wide. Zatanna wordlessly confirms the doctor's suspicions. It is her causing this. And the doctor takes her to meet with the mysterious stranger. We come to meet this man, finding him amongst the bodies of a small paramilitary force he killed entirely by himself. He meets Zatanna, and upon seeing her, he's somehow immediately able to sense something special about her. He says to her, "You can talk to me, you know. I'm like you. I'm special too." And with that, he takes his gun, sticks it in his mouth, and shoots himself. But he doesn't die. The wound heals almost instantaneously. This guy is a crazy-looking, bald, 7-foot-tall dude of unclear descent, covered in blood after having killed a bunch of guys with AK-47s with his bare hands. And this is the person who, for the first time in years, causes Z to speak. "Please kill me. No matter what I do, it go wrong. No matter what I do, I hurt people. And no matter how hard I try, I can't die. I see you've killed so many people, so please, kill me too." He doesn't kill her. Instead, he takes her to a high peak on one of the North African summits nearby. And he says to her, "You're part of the prophecy, you know. Many years ago, longer than you can even imagine, I was the prisoner on a ship. I was a common man, and I had done things many common men do, but then fate intervened. There was a big storm, and I became stranded on an infinite expanse of ice. And just when I had lost all hope, the ground blossomed up into a great palace, and Satan himself spoke to me. He showed me in 3 lights a war in heaven where all of the angels were killed by the demons. God is dead, you see. And everything we believe is right is wrong. And everything we believe is wrong is right. I can't kill you because I need you. I was chosen as the saint of sinners. You must know. You must know how to get back to that palace in the ice." Zatanna just stares. She so wants to believe that she's part of this, whatever this guy is fucking talking about, but she's also fully aware that he seems fucking insane. Wouldn't it be great to be part of something bigger? Wouldn't it be great if he was right? "Unless you come with me, you'll be stuck. You'll be lost and purposeless. But I can give you a place in this world. I can give you a path to glory." She ponders. This is the moment her life could change forever. They return to town to meet with the doctor, where Zatanna will have to decide whether she returns to the orphanage or if she will go with Vandal into the unknown. As she's considering this, the rest of Amaj's forces come up over the peak, and they shoot Vandal with a rocket launcher, blowing off his skin. Z is so triggered by the violence that she transforms into this wild witch thing. Long, spindly limbs and bladed fingers, a hollow, toothless mouth screaming, eyes sunken into the head, staring as she rips the insurgency to shreds, rips their cars to pieces, scorches the very land they stood on black and leaves nothing back but guts and ashes before ripping Amaj in half and eating him whole. Gunfire erupts. The doctor is shot, and Zatanna rushes to her, but she doesn't know what to do. And the doctor bleeds to death, screaming in fear of the Zatanna monster. The last words she says are, "No, no, stay away from me." Vandal tells Z that the doctor's death was actually not a bad thing. "You don't have to feel guilty. You never have to be guilty. You are part of something so much bigger." And Z, barely listening, decides to go with him. Not because she believes she's a prophet, but because she believes she's destruction incarnate. Effectively, she gives up. She has nowhere to go, and no way to die. And she follows Vandal Savage into the dark. Z's third story is called Isis. After 2 years of traveling with the psychotic Vandal Savage, Z appears physically healthier, but mentally she's more broken than ever. They're now stopped at a rural village on the west coast of Japan in a house where Vandal has murdered the occupants to allow them to have somewhere to stay and then made Z erase their bodies. It's one trick she's actually gotten good at, but that's only because Vandal has made her do it hundreds and hundreds of times. All day and night, for years, Z has listened to Vandal ramble and monologue, even though she's no longer certain that whatever makes Vandal magical is connected to her own magical powers. They're in this town in Japan because they've been searching through the abandoned mine shafts in the area for something Vandal can sense is connected to his holy purpose, with Vandal using Zatanna as an all-purpose tool. Indeed, she's gotten better at magic after Vandal has identified her powers as having been ordained by a higher holy angel. So she's been able to experiment with her magic more than she has in years in a more motivated way. Vandal is the first person since Clara to encourage her to do this. Zatanna's whole life is split into these chapters of feverishly avoiding magic and hesitantly being open to try it. She can now do a number of new things, like she can generate all different colors of light and sparkles and fireworks. She can now semi-reliably use her magic to lift and move things, although it's risky because sometimes she just crushes them instantly or rips them in half or turns them into something else entirely different. It's useful down in the mines because she can use her magic to clear the ruins or even make the space around them bigger. But Vandal is very frustrated by the fact that she can't sense the connection to their purpose here in the way that he can. His eyes glow a strange green color when they're down in the mines. Whatever gives Vandal his power, it's different. And Z knows it's from somewhere else. After another frustrating day underground in the mines, they're out in the woods when Z comes across an injured hawk. She uses her powers to heal it, just quickly without thinking, and it works. The hawk takes off and flies away, and Z doesn't notice, but a local girl was watching that. A girl who's deformed, whose leg is broken in childbirth and constantly uses a cane. The girl, Suki, asks Zatanna to heal her too, and Z, of course, due to her experiences, says no and urges Suki to stay far away from her and just barely manages to hide her from Vandal Savage. That night, Vandal drags Z to a bar in town where Vandal gruesomely kills everyone for no reason and has Z make the bodies disappear again. This is their custom. Later, Vandal, using the kitchen of the bar, the ingredients of the people he murdered, makes Zatanna dinner. Vandal reveals he knew about Suki in the woods and says Zatanna shouldn't lie to him. Even though her skills are clearly ordained by a higher power, I am beginning to worry our separate purposes are not quite aligned. Z apologizes to Vandal and opens up to him, saying that she's no longer sure if she's supposed to care about people or if it matters when normal people die. Vandal, fatherly, clarifies to her that literally everything people think is good is actually evil, and everything people think is evil is actually good. It's his whole ontology. It's his whole belief system. He's given this speech 1,000 times and ultimately concludes that because they cannot die, they are as much akin to a normal person as a normal person is akin to a piece on a checkers board. He and Z matter. Everyone else does not. They're free of death. Everyone else is ruled by it. Zatanna implores him, how can you be so sure? How will you know when you've achieved your destiny? Vandal says maybe he won't know. And that's why he needs to continue to believe blindly. Faith! Faith gives me my power. Faith and Satan. The next day, they find another mine shaft, which Zatanna clears, but then they are shocked to discover it is booby-trapped with a stick of dynamite. The subsequent explosion badly burns Zatanna and blows off all the skin on the entire left side of Vandal's body. And while they are still recovering, they are discovered by a man named John Constantine. He set the trap, and he's amazed that the explosion didn't kill them. I'd heard you two had some Interesting. Durability. Constantine takes advantage of Vandal's weakened state to engage him in conversation, revealing he's known about Vandal for years and even has foreknowledge of Zatanna's magical abilities. And he even knows what Vandal is looking for down in these mines, even though Vandal doesn't know himself. But Constantine explains that the man he works for already has it. Vandal will never find it because it isn't there. Vandal is enraged and promises revenge, but Constantine says instead he'll offer Vandal a deal. He'll give Vandal information that he knows Vandal wants in exchange for Zatanna. Z, overhearing this and gruesomely burned from the explosion, takes her opportunity to escape into the forests under the cloak of darkness, but she passes out from the pain when she reaches the woods. Awakening, Zatanna discovers to find that Suki has found her and saved her and brought her back to her family home. Z meets Suki's parents, who are very nice, but is too afraid to share any details about herself and repeatedly tries to leave. It helps that she doesn't speak Japanese. But Suki begs her to stay, admitting that she's never had friends, let alone friends that come over, given that she lives so rurally high on the mountain by the mines. Z is still learning to heal herself, so she agrees to stay for the day. Zatanna and Suki explore the woods near Suki's house, and Z is brought back to her time with Clara. Here, Z asks Suki if Suki thinks she has a greater purpose. And Suki says people don't need a purpose, that being a person is hard enough. Z agrees, but isn't actually so sure. Returning to Suki's house, they discover Suki's parents physically ripped to shreds, and Vandal is there, eating Suki's mother's brain out of her skull. Vandal, disappointed with Zatanna, repeats that he no longer thinks their purposes are aligned, and that Zatanna is only part of his destiny as a stepping stone or a key, and that she's not actually an important person. Defiant, Zatanna turns the traumatized Suki into a bird so that she can escape Vandal. And Vandal and Z watch as Suki flies up free into the sky, higher and higher, until she is plucked out of the air and killed immediately by the hawk that Zatanna saved earlier. Vandal says, "See, you can't do anything." Numb and miserable, Zatanna is traded for some kind of information and handed off complacently to John Constantine. She is then put onto a luxurious limo and taken to a luxurious plane in a luxurious private airport, and then flown to the most opulent hotel in Moscow. And there she is taken to the largest, nicest suite, and waiting for her with a giant tea set and desserts and every treasure a 14-year-old girl could possibly want is Lex Luthor, at the time the world's third richest man, who greets her by saying, "So, I've heard you're a very special person." The next Zatanna story is called Athena. For 2 years, Z has essentially been the pet of Lex Luthor. At first, she was traveling with him, like a ward or an adopted child, living the high life and being treated like a princess. But Luthor rapidly grew frustrated with Zatanna's inability to control or even understand her powers. They didn't come with a guidebook. Under Luthor's guidance, along with a series of gurus and holy men, all of whom were completely full of shit, some of whom were creeps, Z pushes further with her powers, but never far enough for Lex's standards. She can hover, but can't pick what direction she goes in while hovering. She can project these blasts of energy, but only like 1 out of every 6 times she tries, and sometimes it randomly blows up or goes off in a different direction than she intended, once nearly killing Lex. She can make things disappear, but sometimes they randomly come back. And sometimes, when they come back, they're different. Different in a scary way. A car returns from being vanished with a full set of organic internal organs, leaking blood from under the hood. A gun made to disappear returns with a spider's legs and crawls over a room before they're able to crush and kill it. This unpredictability becomes a massive problem after Luther impulsively murders one of the holy men out of frustrations for one of Z's failures. He forces Zatanna to disappear the body, but that night at a dinner party with celebrities and politicians, the body abruptly reappears in the middle of the room, screaming and writhing around. The only way they're able to dispose of it is by completely incinerating it, as it screams the whole time. A leftover finger still twitches and tries to crawl away before Luthor stops it. Luther is so frustrated by this that Zatanna loses many of her basic privileges, not only of extreme wealth, but of fundamental humanity. Luther becomes paranoid, convinced that many of Z's failures are maybe intentional, designed to harm and frustrate and mock him personally. Z is cut down to one meal a day, her bed removed from her quarters, which no longer has windows or doors that she can operate on her own. Luther urges Z to use her powers to escape, to make windows and doors, to blow the roof off. None of the defenses he has keeping her there, up to and including the brutally violent traps, could truly kill her, and her imprisonment is therefore her choice. If you want to leave so bad, leave. The reality is more complicated. Z has come to believe that her time with Lex is indeed her real purpose, and has already been taught to normalize the murder and madness that Luther brings with him everywhere. If Vandal Savage is a 10-course buffet of perversity, Luther is barely an appetizer. I mean, at least this dude gives her lunch. On top of that, Zatanna has developed what could be thought of as a friendship with Luther's new wife, Barbara Ann Minerva, a beautiful socialite whose marriage to Lex seems to have dragged her into a depraved world well over anything she had anticipated. An impressive, intelligent woman who always felt out of place amongst the 1%, Barbara sees Z as a connection to something bigger, real power, real meaning. The frustrations of privilege that have defined Barbara's journey her whole life as an heiress find a human vessel in Zatanna. This girl actually inherited power. This girl's the real deal. It makes Zatanna feel pretty fucking good. Resolved to impress Luther and Barbara, Zatanna agrees to come with him after Luthor said he has made an important discovery. Traveling on Luthor's gigantic mega yacht, Zatanna is reunited with John Constantine and introduced to a man named Kirk Langstrom, a scientist working with Luthor. Langstrom is assigned to give her all sorts of tests and is shown to be a gentle and intelligent man with a shocking lack of empathy for living things. Langstrom explains to Zatanna that he believes the human life should operate on a geological time frame. I don't like to see harm come to people, but compromises must be made if you want achievements that last 1,000,000 years. Geological time is the only meaningful measure of our impact on this planet. No one in this world is truly special, except perhaps for you, Zatanna. I can find no basis for your powers in your DNA. All of my insight, all of my studying has not prepared me for you. This mindset truly appeals to Zatanna, and she's actually excited when they reach their destination, an island hidden from the rest of culture for over 100 years, home to gigantic, super powerful women and small, timid men. This primitive society, called the Amazons, bases itself off a bastardization of Greek mythology. They were actually Greek and Spanish pilgrims. They got lost on a boat 150 years ago. They got stranded on the island, makes the island the Amazons. I don't want to get into it! Kryptonian epic's too long! Zatanna is ready for anything. So when Luthor asks her to perform feats of beautiful visual magic to dazzle the Amazons, Zatanna complies without hesitation, successfully helping to gaslight the primitive superhuman culture into believing that Luthor truly is the son of Zeus. Riding the high, Zatanna bonds further with Barbara Ann Minerva and is eventually introduced to the Amazons' chosen champion, a runt called Diana of Themyscira. This is the happiest period of Zatanna's life so far. Helping Luthor fool the Amazons repeatedly becomes like a big game to her, and Lex's excitement amidst her compliance has created a twisted dynamic where she strives constantly for his approval. However, Luthor again grows frustrated, and one day, Zatanna is surprised to wake up and find that the mega yacht has departed the island with her on it. Diana has been airlifted elsewhere. She attempts to speak to Luther, but he ignores her usefulness for now having run out in his eyes. Zatanna, awakening from her slumber in the storage cabinet on the yacht, walks out onto the deck, the moonlight streaking down. And there, standing, she sees the sexy magician girl from the mural in her hometown on a spotlight on the ocean. The magician girl performs a beautiful song and tells Zatanna it could always be this way, that she could do things that would be remembered for 1,000,000 years, that she could be the most important person in the universe. Zatanna says she wants to go back and see the Amazons, but the magician says, "You killed them, silly. You did just as he asked and fooled them for just long enough, and it was so much fun." "But what do you mean? I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't hurt anyone. It was games." Her future self laughs and says, "You really want to see where the Amazons are now?" And then manifests hundreds of screaming, burning skeletons all around Zatanna as Zatanna screams and shrieks and begs until she loses her voice. Abracadabra! More abracadabra! I have the power! The fifth Zatanna story is called Inanna, and oh. 3 years later, Zatanna is a shell of herself. Luthor has returned to treating her like a possession, but her displays of power on the Amazonian island that impressed him so much at the time have come to have a reverse effect of making him fear her now. In order to assuage this fear, Zatanna wakes up one morning to find that Lex has had surgery done to her face. A small capsule of cyanide with an advanced emitter on it has been implanted in her left nostril. If Lex Luthor's heart stops, that capsule will burst, killing her instantly, presuming she even can die. Zatanna at this point is run ragged. She has mostly stopped talking again and has gained a lot of weight, no longer showering or taking care of herself at all. She smells, she's visibly filthy, and Lex Luthor barely pays attention to her, treating her like a maid, feeling that the experimentation with her has ultimately gone nowhere and been a vindictive waste of his time. It is under these circumstances, at a party, that Zatanna witnesses a private conversation between Luthor and his billionaire friend, Victor Zsasz. She listens as Luthor describes one of his recent nefarious experiences, the murder of the League of Shadows, only to be just as shocked as Lex is when Zsasz casually admits to being a serial killer, revealing dozens of tally marks all over his body. He does this in an attempt to connect with Luthor, but Luthor is so disgusted by the comparison that he impulsively murders Zsasz right then and there. Bang! In the months following this incident, Lex's illegal activities greatly intensify, and his wife, Barbara Minerva, increasingly seems more afraid than complicit, bonding with Z and showing her kindness at every opportunity. One day, a more friendly than usual Luthor introduces Z to a man called Floyd Lawton. When Z is around Lawton, she sees horrible hallucinations of all the people he's killed, an assassin unlike any other, whose only religion and only philosophy is money. To him, Lex Luthor is God. Sometimes these hallucinations are screaming, talking over him, yelling their last words again and again and again. Z's never been able to see dead people before. She didn't even know she could do that. But she tries to never be in the same room with him because the screaming is so loud and the room is so crowded. Luckily, this son of a bitch, Floyd Lawton, is only a coordinator to her real new assignment, a young woman named Sandra Woosson, a deadly assassin with many kills to her name, part of special forces teams all over the world, now disgraced and working private. Luther explains that he has designed a team of assassins, each with their own iconography and specialized weaponry, with their own branding and character name. But most important of all, each is hidden under a mask. He promises Zatanna that if she can enchant Sandra Woosson and make her invincible via casting a spell like a fairy tale, all of Zatanna's prior privileges will be restored. Z spends several hours with Sandra, and surprisingly, the two of them bond. Zatanna shows Sandra a small act of magic, manifesting a rose from nothing, and Sandra is moved and amazed. A jaded assassin, she has never seen something that blew her mind and showed her there was something real beyond the things she knew, the cynicism that has consumed everything. She tells Zatanna that this is an incredible experience for her. Her childhood was traumatic, and she's experienced all sorts of horrific things in her line of work. But now, Sandra feels that all of her life has come together, and she will be Lady Shiva for Lex Luthor. She asks Zatanna, "Don't you understand how lucky you are?" Zatanna summons up her magic and does her best and attempts to enchant Sandra with a protection spell. Excited, Floyd Lawton and Lex enter the room, and Floyd immediately shoots Sandra in the head, blowing her brains all over the wall, some of her skull landing in Zatanna's mouth, and before she can even react, Luthor is screaming in her face that they had to sit for hours and watch her waste their time, that she represents the ultimate waste of potential, a person too stupid to be a god. Traumatized Zatanna returns to Barbara and successfully gives her the spell of enchantment. No man may harm you. Barbara thanks her and immediately disappears from her life, abandoning Zatanna to her fate. One day, Zatanna sees a new person in the Lady Shiva armor, and she realizes that Luthor's squad of killers is actually a suicide squad with replaceable figureheads designed to create the illusion of an immortal team of badasses. Z increasingly feels that nothing is real. One night, while Zatanna is eating dinner, Lex Luthor is on a skiing trip in the Swiss Alps with several of his new girlfriends. His ski slips out from under him, and he hits a tree at 30 miles an hour. Rushed to a hospital nearby, Lex survives, but for 22 seconds, his heart stops beating. The cyanide capsule in Zatanna's nose detonates, permanently disfiguring her as it melts away flesh, cartilage, and bone. Totally alone and believing in nothing, hideous and hidden from the world, Zatanna is surprised by one last personal visit from Lex. He explains that now, with the Ace Chemical Project beginning, he doesn't need her anymore. He's come to understand what she is: a mistake, a dead end, an illusion, a warning. He explains that her things have been removed, and she is no longer his problem. And with that, Zatanna, now 19, permanently scarred, unwashed, and with only her ragged clothes on her back, is dropped off on the east side of Bloodhaven, the most dangerous city in America. Alone in one of Bloodhaven's many large homeless encampments, Zatanna is offered crack and tries it enthusiastically. Then meth, then heroin. The months pass, and eventually she sees a vision of the magician woman in the sky over Bloodhaven, looking down at her, gigantic, blotting everything out. She says, "What do you want from me? I don't want to be you, just leave me alone." The giant figure of the woman just begins to laugh and laugh and laugh, and in a tent smelling of vomit, piss, and sweat, Zatanna sinks into sleep.
Motherfucker, I've been mortified, 45, feeling like a Mordecai. I ain't regular, feel like Jordan wearing 45.
Z's sixth story is called Saraswati. In Gotham City, Police Commissioner James Gordon gives Detective Renee Montoya an ultimatum: accept a reassignment or resign in disgrace. Thanks to the investigative reporting of a man named Jimmy Olsen, it's recently come to light that during the trial of Harvey Dent, who Renee Montoya was assigned to help guard, she and Dent had an emotional affair. The former district attorney of Gotham, Dent was disfigured by an acid bomb from the mob, and in the wake of that had a complete mental breakdown, becoming the psychopathic domestic terrorist Two-Face, the first person to actually wear a costume while committing crimes. This is also complicated by the fact that Harvey's mental issues had existed for years, but the evidence of his breakdowns in college had mysteriously vanished from all records, thanks to the deft work of, let's just say, Batman. It's Batman did that. By the time Renee had met Harvey, he was medicated and in jail. Two-Face is not who Harvey Dent is. That's just him when he's manic and spiraling and high on cocaine. In jail, Harvey showed real regret, real pain, real depth of character, the things that had made him a hero to the public. The fact that the remaining half of his face looked like Brad Pitt in '97 doesn't hurt either, and Renee was smitten. Those text messages got very inappropriate. With the news and the screen caps about to hit the internet, Commissioner Gordon is worried that the progress that has been made regarding the police department's reputation in Gotham will be at risk. The increased presence of the Batman, even if it's terrified the populace, has had the strange effect of restoring the city's faith in its police department. It's for this reason that Gordon is offering Renee an opportunity, instead of being fired or retiring, to transfer up north to Bloodhaven. Renee is horrified. Bloodhaven is not simply one of the most corrupt cities in the United States, it is one of the most corrupt cities in the world, and its police department is essentially a mob of its own, led by corrupt internal affairs agent Dudley Soames. Gordon says it's her only option, and that the Batman has offered to make the tabloid story disappear if Renee disappears from Gotham. Renee is shocked that Gordon is in direct communication with the vigilante, and Gordon explains that things have changed in Gotham, and it's time for her to leave and move on. As Renee leaves the GPD building, she watches as a crane lifts the bat symbol to install it on the department's roof. Relocated to Bloodhaven, months passing quickly, Renee rents a small, dingy apartment and reports for duty, only to discover that something has gone incredibly wrong with the department. And not just the corruption, most of the power structure of corrupt cops and the detectives who are still listed as active, who she was prepared to work with, have either murdered each other or vanished off the face of the earth. The tendency to think of Bloodhaven as a kind of garbage dump for crooked cops all over the country, combined with this bizarre power vacuum that has been hidden from the entire world, leads Renee to a truly startling discovery. The remaining members of Bloodhaven's police force are under the command of an entity none of them have ever actually seen. A creature called the Blue Beetle. Renee is approached after her first month on the job by Jamie Reyes, a former traffic cop who has been promoted to the rank of captain in the complete power vacuum. He openly explains that the Blue Beetle controls everything. You don't understand, Miss Montoya. Beetle runs Bloodhaven. He's taking it all. It's his chessboard, they're his pieces. I'm just honored to be a part of it. The criminals used to control everything, but the corrupt hierarchy of the police department has been subsumed by this faceless entity that blackmails, bribes, and manipulates members of the force, playing them against each other, slowly wheedling out the most dangerous people. Renee, in horror, immediately compares the situation to that of Gotham's new codependent relationship with the Batman. But Jamie says she misunderstands. He is the Blue Beetle. They are all the Blue Beetle. Renee doesn't understand what he means. He's the Blue Beetle? They're all the Blue Beetle? And Jamie reveals the true purpose for their meeting, gifting her advanced Blue Beetle armor and a Blue Beetle communicator, along with a wristband that charges based on her physical movement. He says he doesn't think the Blue Beetle is a superhero. Renee is confused, and Jamie says, well, what kind of superhero is trying to give their power away to everybody? And so it goes that Renee Montoya gets a front seat to the rejuvenation of Bloodhaven as she helps to spread the mysterious, highly advanced Blue Beetle technology into the infrastructure of the city. Due to the incredible amount of empty real estate in Bloodhaven's dilapidated uptown and the city's massive homeless population, Blue Beetle puts Renee in charge of relocating and rehousing all of the unhoused in self-powering, self-contained, hyper-advanced Blue Beetle modified apartment buildings. To do this, Renee helps to clear out several homeless encampments. In one of the tents, she finds something very strange. Hundreds of pieces of green paper, little strips with vague white shapes on them. As she clears the pile, she begins to realize that what she's looking at is rough drafts. Someone trying again and again and again until near the bottom of the pile, she discovers 700 crisp $100 bills. Renee inquires after the person who lived in the tent and is given the description of a scarred and mutilated woman addicted to crack who never spoke and rarely left her tent. As Renee's day-to-day life gets better and better, the project downtown grows and grows, turning into a large-scale organic farm, half of which is operated by the citizens with help of the Blue Beetle technology, which is now being given out to private civilians. This makes Bloodhaven truly independent in terms of supplying its own food source, energy source, and cultural philosophy, increasingly widening the cultural gap between the burgeoning utopia of Bloodhaven and the rest of the United States. In private, though, Renee Montoya has become obsessed with the missing woman and the mystery of those green papers. Feels like it means something. Hours and hours of reviewing surveillance footage of the cameras near the homeless encampments finally comes to fruition when Renee discovers footage of the homeless woman she's been looking for from one day before the homeless encampment was cleared. The footage shows the woman staring at the TVs in the window of a store. And when Renee rewinds the footage, she can see that every time Superman's been on TV for the last 6 months, this woman has gone and stood silently, looking into the window of the electronics store, watching Superman on the screens. And as soon as he's gone, the woman walks away back to the tent. What does it mean? Renee Montoya, knowing that the serial numbers on the $100 bills were all sequential, uses the burgeoning Blue Beetle database to track all the cash spent in the city. She discovers that the first place the money was spent was at the Donner Hotel, and she goes there, using her authority to access their surveillance. And there's the footage. The woman is there, disappearing into the Donner Hotel's penthouse suite, now rotting and decayed since its glory days in the 60s when Bloodhaven was still a place people were willing to go. The surveillance footage from the hotel hallway shows the woman entering the penthouse, but not leaving, ever. It's been 3 weeks. The hotel manager anxiously reveals that whoever she is, she's still in there. Renee calls into the Blue Beetle and gets his permission to pursue the lead into the hotel room. Upon entering, she discovers something truly shocking. Portions of the hotel room have been restored to their former glory, while other portions of the hotel room are completely destroyed or changed beyond recognition. There are pink and purple feathers all over the ground, along with sparkly piles of what looks like clothes, but half-formed like incomplete thoughts, some of them with the wrong texture, like sandpaper or cookie dough. But most horrific at all is the strange, unearthly music. A lilting, eerie female voice. It seems to be coming from nowhere. In the bedroom, Renee discovers what she at first believes to be a corpse, only to realize that it's a hollowed-out husk, its body torn apart by something emerging from inside. Following a trail of dried blood and viscera to the bathroom, Renee discovers the origin of the singing. In the messes of blood and flesh, on the counters and in the sink and in the bathtub are 15 disembodied faces, at first deformed and hideous and then progressively more human and eventually truly beautiful. And they are singing. Renee screams, and the singing abruptly stops. The Blue Beetle itself arrives to back Renee up, a hulking machine that scares Renee nearly as much as the horrors in the bathroom, but by then, the faces have gone silent. The Beetle, looking over the scene, gives Renee one last shock for the day, when the armor folds open, revealing, of all people, Renee's grumpy, stoic, perpetually frowning co-worker, Ted Kord. Ted asks, "You hungry?" At an all-night diner in Bloodhaven, Ted explains that he didn't build the Blue Beetle technology. He simply inherited it. He doesn't understand what Renee discovered. It's not related to him, and Ted worries that his actions might inspire criminals in the same way that the Batman's actions inspired horrible things in Gotham. Renee is deeply moved. Ted doesn't seem like an all-powerful big brother in a black cape surveillance state shadow emperor. He talks about this hard-fought and won role as the most powerful man in Bloodhaven the way a school principal would talk about their 6th grade class. He seems worried, concerned, overwhelmed, but confident. It's an inversion of her conversation with James Gordon. Ted asks Renee's opinion. She's from Gotham, she's seen it. She watched the rise of the Batman vigilante. Could that happen here? She says, no, because we're not gonna let it, Ted. And with that, Renee fully accepts her role as the newly found second in command to the Blue Beetle. Later in the night, Ted asks about the corpse, the woman, the faces. Who was she? Renee explains that all she knows is that the woman would spend every day watching Superman on television. This makes Ted think for a long time. Well then, let's hope she's one of the good ones. Renee wakes up the next morning fully restored, invigorated, and ready for what's next, which is probably a confrontation with the Duchesne crime family, the last standing criminals in Bloodhaven. But on her way to work, on the Blue Beetle public hover transport, she sees something that gives her chills all over her body. It's a massive digital billboard all along the side of Bloodhaven's largest musical venue. It shows a stunning woman of 22 in a top hat and fishnets, an image very familiar to us, but that face. She's balancing the world on the tip of her finger. Under it, it reads, Zatanna, one night only. Don't be afraid to believe. Renee, standing there, staring up at the building, simply says, I know that face. Where were we? Zatanna's 7th story is called Namazani. It's been 6 months since Renee saw the billboard, and Zatanna has become one of music's fastest rising stars. She has no agents, no managers, no label. Her music simply spontaneously appears on digital devices and in hard copies. And this is possible because, and Z makes no secret of this, she is magic. As the world grapples with the existence of a self-professed magical person, Zatanna herself lives a bizarre existence. Totally isolated from everyone but her close entourage, most of them young former addicts who Zatanna had been homeless with, she interacts with almost nobody. When alone, her expression is almost always neutral until she forces a cheery smile when facing her hordes of fans, which are ever increasing. It's hard to tell if Zatanna has finally found happiness or if she's one bad day away from snapping and going completely insane. This is furthered by the fact that when Zatanna looks in the mirror, she doesn't see herself, but instead sees a horrible and gnarled witch creature. Having finally self-actualized into the woman who's haunted her for her whole life, Zatanna sees in her reflection only a monster. Once a week, her performances are streamed live, but only from the Uptown Theater in Bloodhaven. These performances often feature new or even improvised songs with slight magical qualities, able to calm the mind and lift the mood of everyone that hears them. But the price of fame is more than simply an isolated existence. The international attention a magical person has garnered has been circumvented and controlled very deliberately by the Blue Beetle and the increasingly strong infrastructure and cultural community of Bloodhaven, which is rapidly becoming international news in and of itself to rival the similarly unbelievable stories of an Amazonian warrior woman, an impossibly fast red robot, and of course, Metropolis's own Superman, all competing for the public's attention. Zatanna feels at her most fulfilled when she watches Superman on TV, and she watches him at every opportunity, some would say obsessively so. There's something about him, the fact that he dresses like a clown and exists seemingly only to help people, that to her represents the actual opposite of everything she experienced with Vandal Savage and Lex Luthor. The idea that someone could do this with their power, put on funny red boots and smile at families. That is interesting, and it's different from anything she's ever seen. One night during her performance, things go totally off the rails. The delusional, megalomaniacal criminal heir Roland Deschain has transformed himself with help from a rogue geneticist named Gerard Schugel, and the result is a hulking, brutish superhuman that calls itself Blockbuster. Filled with new confidence about his station as a demigod, Deschain has gathered 250 lunatics with shotguns and trucks to stage a formal invasion of Bloodhaven, confident that their neighbor, Gotham, nor the United States government will be coming to the rescue due to Bloodhaven's self-described status as a separate island empire. In a spectacular sequence that actually takes place during Blue Beetle 2, Blue Beetle Cracks Down Crime, Zatanna is confronted during her performance by gun-wielding lunatics who attempt to take the whole theater hostage. In a brutal and shocking display of power broadcasted live to the entire world, Zatanna goes fucking nuts on her assailants. Using the same hideous glass transformation she accidentally cast on her mother, along with various other gruesome curses we've seen her use accidentally, Zatanna eviscerates nearly a third of Blockbuster's forces by herself. Triggered, screaming, and steadily losing control as her powers are becoming more and more out of hand and causing more and more damage, Z is shocked by the arrival of the Blue Beetle himself, who brutalizes and defeats Blockbuster, shattering his dream of becoming an American warlord. Exhausted by the extensive use of her powers and badly hallucinating, Zatanna passes out. While unconscious, she has a vision of an endless white space like a blank page, and a small, smarmy voice speaking to her.
You know what the big secret is? Why you're so powerful? It's because you're not important. They never cared about you, not really. You're always more of an idea than a character to them. I mean, look around you. There must be some reason why you're here along all these other people who've always been so important. Lex Luthor, an important man. Superman, everybody knows his name. But I'm not sure anybody really knows Zatanna.
She sees the shape of a small, skinny man in the distance and tries to walk towards it.
There must be a reason behind it all. It all must be going somewhere. All these horrible things that have happened to you. Z, the magical girl. So tragic. Maybe that's why you're here. Get some cheap pathos, or...
And then she sees it. The witch floating in the void. The monster that she became in Africa. The small man indicates it.
Maybe that's why you're here. Maybe your story isn't a story about a hero after all. You never looked like that in all the official versions, all the published ones. But in here, there's a monster right behind your pretty eyes, and the world just keeps begging it to pop out. You wonder why you have these powers. You'll never know. No one will. But I think you're gonna have to make a choice at some point. Because in my humble opinion, you know, as a fan, the only way to make Zatanna interesting is to turn her into a villain. Where's it all going, Z? How did you end up in someone else's epic?
And suddenly, Zatanna is looking out at a horizon of hundreds of dead people. People she's known throughout her life. Sandra, Lady Shiva is there. Everybody, Suki's family, her parents, the warlord, his men, everybody. Everybody she has ever seen die and everyone she's ever killed. And then she hears a haunting laugh that is all too familiar. And for a moment, Zatanna has a vision of two planets hanging next to each other and a tiny body floating, surrounded by blood in between them. When she awakens, she finds someone she doesn't recognize at her bedside, but we do. That's Ted Cord. Ma'am, I don't want to be forward, but what you did for us in this city last night has put you in a difficult situation. I didn't mean to take away any of your agency by collecting you and bringing you to Bloodhaven PD, but there's a lot of people looking for you now. And I'm gonna need to know. Because this is all of our city. What are you? Zatanna, after a moment, says, I don't know. Ted responds, well, I can tell you what I think you are. He puts his hand on hers. You're a goddamn hero. Zatanna's eyes fill with tears. There's no way for Ted to know this, but even as she smiles, the reflection on the mirror hanging on the wall shows the witch staring back at her with hateful eyes. In life, we tend to codify experiences as good or bad, right? Happy nostalgia or horrible trauma to be healed. But those experiences shape us. The ways we behave after experiencing things that hurt us show character and show our best sides. But they often show our worst sides too. Zatanna is easily the most powerful character in the Kryptonian epic, and Earth's fate will ultimately be in her hands, just like it was on the poster. The question is, will she let it go? Can she let it all go? Or will she crush this world to dust? What would you do?
If we don't stop, if we don't go, I'll be left alone hanging out when you go. Sitting by myself, going crazy like all the time. If we don't stop, if I don't go, I'll be left alone hanging out when you go. And I hope you realize, playing with the fire.
Nobody gives a fuck about Superman. You don't give a fuck about Superman, even if you think you do.
Bruce Wayne is a fucking
You're
idiot.
called the Super
But here's the thing. Superman, the ultimate superhero. That's the symbol on the pod. Batman's true identity. That was crazy. Wayne Manor's burning. They assemble a team. It's a house of cards.
He says I'm the perfect hybrid.
Surprise, bitch! It's the Green Arrow! It's about changing the world. None of us are ordinary.
I actually got really emotional doing that part.
Superman time.
That big red L.
I haven't lost yet. Send everyone. You can't stop this thing.
Superman will save the world.
And Jesus, you're going on too long.
And the Justice League is coming too.
wanna know what my sister's name is? Grandma. Now we're on roulette. How many roulette? Gotta play some bingo though after this. What's the best way to make money for my boy? Alright, bingo it is. He got no money though.
He's got no money though. What's homeboy gonna do with no money? He needs to make Alabama Bizills. Don't fucking look at me, you fair piece of shit. Don't tell me to not tell you to look at me, you fair piece of shit.
You call me, you started it with the wheelchair.
Hey, it hurts when I pee. Is that normal?
Don't tell me that I started telling you not to look at me to look at you to look at
Don't
you.
talk to me like you started it with the, and then I finished it with the wheelchair shit.
Okay, take a breath.
I feel like this ends with us holding.
Y'all need to calm down.
Shut up, Peter Griffin.
Shut up, your mama. Shut up, your mama.
You hear that? That was Sam Hyde with a cigarette impaling his chest.
Pretty sure it was Burger King foot, Lennon.
Man, that's the third time
That's a real deep cut with it, because he tried to do a foot lettuce, but
Hey, who wants to know Giovanni's address?
me. Let's hear it on voice. Let's hear it. Give me the full address with the zip code and everything.
443.
I got you. Well, now we're in the blackout round, so you gotta like cover the whole board.
B7. G50.
Yeah, man, I've been there a lot of times. Pretty cool.
B11.
Liar's Poker. Liar's Deck. Liar's Poker. America. 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 Match found. Three, two, one.
Two aces.
Two aces.
One ace. One ace. One ace.
One ace. Bite me.
That all you got? Jackass.
Not today.
You wish.
king.
Two kings. Liar. Here, jackass. Death can knock, I'm all here. Mm-hmm. Two queens. One queen.
One queen.
One queen.
Game over.
Two queens. Yeah.
One queen. Game over.
One queen. All you got. One queen.
Liar.
You wish. Let me see some blood. Mm-hmm.
One king.
Two kings. Liar. Jackass.
Game
Jackass.
over.
If I survive, I'll pay back the tab. Huh. Two aces. Liar. That all
Game
you
over.
got? Here. Just another scarf with a collection. Close one. Two kings.
Two kings.
Two kings. One king.
One king.
One king. One king.
Two kings.
Liar. You wish. You're dead. Death can knock, I'm all here. Mm-hmm. 2 aces. Liar. Jackass. Time to flirt with danger. Huh. That all you got? Two aces. Two aces.
One ace.
One ace. One ace.
One
Jackass.
ace.
Liar.
Game over.
Time to flirt with danger. Chopped. One queen.
Two queens.
Liar. Jackass.
Game over. Well, ain't my first rodeo. Huh.
Where